Good evening. This is AWANI Tonight and I'm Saraya Mia. The opposition bloc helmed by Kerajaan Nasional will unveil its shadow cabinet next week. Machang MP Wan Ahmad Faisal Wan Ahmad Kamal says the cabinet structure will differ from a traditional one as the coalition has 74 MPs.
In an interview with BFM, Wan Faisal explained that Perikataan's cabinet could see 2 or 3 MPs assigned to a ministry. He also clarified that Laureate MP Datuk Sri Hamzah Zainuddin was named opposition leader due to his seniority and experience. Meanwhile, Perikatan has chosen former UMNO member Tan Sri Muhammad Razzie Sheikh Ahmad as their candidate for the Dewan Rakyat Speaker post, ahead of Parliament reconvening on December 19th. Razzie, who is currently a senator, served as Kanga MP between 1982 and 1990 and then again in 2004 to 2013. He left UMNO to join Bersatu in December 2018.
Meanwhile, Home Minister Datuk Sri Saifuddin Nasution Ismail said the Independent Police Conduct Commission IPCC Act 2020 will take effect in June next year without explaining further. The bill was passed in July 2021 with the aim to reduce misconduct among police officers and restore public confidence in the police force.
Saifuddin also said his ministry will expedite the procurement of body cameras for the police.
I was made to understand by the KSU that the budget of 20 million has been approved. Now it's in the process of procurement. Hopefully there is no problem and eventually we'll get the body cam.
The minister added that he had no intention of reviewing the Security Offences Special Measures Act, also known as SOSMA. He said the law allows the court process to take place, unlike other preventative laws such as the Emergency Ordinances or the now-defunct Internal Security Act.
Melaka Pakatan Harapan confirmed the formation of a coalition government with Barisan Nasional in the state, following a cooperation at the federal level. 5 PH state assembly persons, previously in the opposition bloc, with 2 representatives from Kerajaan Nasional, have now switched over to the government.
State Harapan Chief Adli Zahari said the decision was made after a meeting with Chief Minister Datuk Sri Sulaiman Ali. He added this was to ensure a stable government that could implement various programs for the people. The Melaka State Assembly is made up of 28 seats, with 21 held by Barisan, followed by Harapan with 5 and Perikatan with 2. Apart from Adli, who is the Bukit Katil Assemblyman, the other 4 Harapan representatives are Ling Chow Yen, Bandar Hilir, Lau Chi Leong, Kota Laksamana, Kirk Chi Yi, Ayer Keroh, and Alexia Suchin, Kesidang.
In other news, Prime Minister Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim instructed all government departments to formulate suitable measures to implement targeted subsidies. He said the measures must take into consideration both consumers and industries. According to him, Malaysia must redistribute bulk subsidies that also benefit the super rich towards supporting the B40, M40 and small traders, especially affected by the rising cost of living. This comes after a 2-week deadline Anwar has given to relevant ministries and agencies to analyze issues related to subsidies involving Malaysians. Meanwhile, an economist believes the government should do away with targeted subsidies and instead implement a cash transfer scheme to help lower income groups impacted by the high cost of living. Dr. Jeffrey Williams said this is because targeted subsidies are difficult to implement and does not work across all consumer products.
Now, what we're seeing, which is different now to how it's been in the past, we saw prices were rising across 3 types of product. One was petrol, one was electricity and utilities, and the other was food. And so the government introduced price controls and subsidies on those 3 main categories of spending. Now what we're seeing is the prices are rising across all products in the consumer price index. You can't subsidize all prices. You can't subsidize all products. And so you can't actually target effectively in the current inflation environment. The nature of inflation has changed. But what you can do is you can redistribute income. So if we take a particular example in the cooking oil case, we know that the government spent 4 billion ringgit subsidizing cooking oil. And here's the deal with that. If you take that 4 billion and you divide it amongst the B40 household group, it's a little bit less than 3 million households. That's equivalent to about 115 ringgit per household per month. Now, the truth is that people are not benefiting from that 115 ringgit per household per month because of the reduction in the price of cooking oil, because that money is not going into people's pockets, it's going to the producers and the suppliers of the cooking oil. So actually the subsidy is going to companies, the subsidy is not going to consumers. However, if you were to take the 4 billion and instead of subsidizing the prices, you simply transferred that money directly to the people in those income groups, they would get an equivalent of 115 ringgit per household per month for the B40. Obviously, if you included the B50 or the B60, it would be less per household, but it would still be much more than they are benefiting from the price subsidy on the cooking oil.
We'll take a short break. Stay with us.
Dengan kebaikan ho-ho-ho. Masa untuk susu. Afia minum Farm Fresh Grow. Susu yang ibu pilih ni hanya khasiat. Dan ibu janji, semuanya baik untuk Afia. Ibu-ibu, jom berikan mereka susu yang baik. Farm Fresh Grow, semuanya baik.
Abah kamu, ada je yang tak kena. Hari tu...
Uish, laju.
Mari. Sebab tu, plan dia sekarang ni paling laju. Ada macam-macam. Hebat, RM10 pun dapat.
Opah tu, opah ni, awak pun nak juga kan?
Nampak gaya dua-dua ni nak Digi Fiber. Adik pun berhajat nak talent family kan?
Ceritanya semua orang nak.
Ini pelan yang terbaik untuk keluarga.
Welcome back. Several states in Malaysia have seen a shortage of eggs in recent months, with the government planning to import eggs to alleviate the lack of local supply. But according to research fellow from University Putra Malaysia, Professor Datin Dr. Fatimah Muhammad Arshad, there is no shortcut to resolving food insecurity. The government must beef up production capacity to ensure a more competitive sector in the long run.
I think it's all right for Malaysia to open up import to help our consumers. But besides subsidies and controlling price, the government should also expedite or improve the ecosystem of our poultry industry. What I would propose is that we have to urgently start the local production of our feed for livestock. If you look at the performance of the chicken industry, as I said, they are the pride of the country. We thought they were competitive, but surprisingly, they are not resilient. Our competitiveness is challenged by our dependence on input from imports. So this is a good lesson for Malaysia. We must start from now urgently to build up our capacity with regards to producing our own local fertilizer, feed for our livestock, as well as coming up with our machines and apps or whatever ICT solution for our farmers. If we don't do this, when the next shock happens, we will be in trouble again.
Dr. Fatima adds that research and development must be looked into, citing the Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO.
FAO has mentioned in the future, the productivity is dependent 80% on R&D. It's no longer land or labor or whatsoever. We have to improve our R&D, meaning we have to expedite the application of advanced technology to our farms, our livestock industry. And I think this is not something far-fetched because other countries have proven it.
On to international news. 2 police officers were among the 6 people killed at a remote property in Australia's Queensland state. Authorities said today the policemen were visiting the site in response to reports of a missing person.
Initial information indicated the officers were shot by two armed offenders when they approached the residence of about 300 kilometres northwest of Queensland capital Brisbane. 3 people, including a woman, were shot dead after specialist officers and air support responded to a siege situation at the property. A member of the public was also killed, while 2 other police officers were taken to the hospital with injuries. Police warned that the offenders are still at large, urging residents to remain indoors until further notice. Authorities are still investigating circumstances surrounding the incident, including the deaths.
Meanwhile, at least 3 people were killed in a gunman attack at a hotel popular with Chinese businessmen in the Afghan capital, Kabul. The Islamic State IS group has claimed responsibility for the attack.
Witnesses reported multiple blasts and several bursts of gunfire during the incident that happened on Monday. It is still unclear if those dead were civilians or involved in the attack. A Kabul police spokesman said 3 attackers were killed and 1 suspect arrested. The Taliban said all the guests of the hotel have been rescued and no foreigner was killed, with 2 foreign guests injured. Meanwhile, the IS said in a statement on Monday that 2 of its personnel attacked the hotel, frequented by Chinese diplomats and businessmen, where they detonated 2 explosive devices hidden inside 2 bags. China, which shares a border with Afghanistan, has not officially recognized the Taliban government but maintains a full diplomatic presence there.
Hong Kong is dropping some of its remaining COVID-19 restrictions following China's shift away from its zero-COVID policy. Among this is a lift on all travel restrictions for international arrivals, provided they test negative for the virus.
Previously, an amber code issued to travellers meant they were subjected to curbs during their first 3 days of stay. The Global Financial Hub will also be scrapping its mobility tracking application, which grants access to restaurants and other places such as gyms and salons. However, diners and entrants to other designated venues would still need to show proof of having received 3 COVID-19 vaccines. Face masks are also still compulsory across the city. Hong Kong has closely followed China's zero-COVID policy since 2020, but began gradually easing restrictions in August and cutting mandatory hotel quarantine in September.
New Zealand has passed laws to ban the sale of tobacco to its next generation in a bid to eventually phase out smoking cigarettes. The new laws include a ban on selling tobacco to anyone born on or after January 1st, 2009, punishable by fines up to $95,000.
The legislation will also reduce the amount of nicotine allowed in smoked tobacco products, while retailers licensed to sell tobacco will be cut from 6,000 to 600 by the end of 2023. As of last month, 8% of New Zealand adults smoked daily, down from 16% 10 years ago. New Zealand already restricts cigarette sales to those aged 18 and over, and in recent years imposed a series of hefty tax hikes on cigarettes. Health authorities have also set a goal of making the country smoke-free by 2025.
That's all for the show tonight. Thanks for watching. I'm Saraya Mia, and we'll see you again tomorrow.
Perdana Menteri Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim menzahirkan komitmen tingkatkan hubungan dua hala ke arah lebih tinggi dengan Kanada ketika dihubungi rakan sejawatnya Justin Trudeau pada Selasa. Persatuan Perkhidmatan Tadbir dan Diplomatik Malaysia menyatakan pendirian untuk terus komited menyokong kerajaan perpaduan di sebalik keputusan penamatan khidmat Datuk Seri Muhammad Syafiq Abdullah sebagai KP Perkhidmatan Awam. Kerajaan akan menggunakan ramalan cuaca Malaysia sebagai panduan untuk mengaktifkan PPS di seluruh negara. Laporan penuh di saluran 501 dan astroawani.com.
Hello and good evening. I'm Melissa Idris. Welcome to Consider This. This is the show where we want you to consider and then reconsider what you know of the news of the day. It is estimated